Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. SAG-AFTRA Foundation and BroadwayWorld continue their filmed Conversation Q&A series, which celebrates the vibrant theater community here in New York City. This event, which is coming from the Robin Williams Center, is a special conversation with the cast and creative team of one of this season's most celebrated and joyous new musicals, The Prom. Enjoy. Well, my first question is for the creators. How did the three of you come together to write The Prom?
Matthew Sklar, would you like to answer that question?
Sure.
You're better with dates. He's better with
Okay,
dates.
all right, sure. In 2010, the three of us and Casey Nicola were working on the Broadway musical Elf. We had just done a workshop, and Jack Vertel...
Feel free to applaud for Elf.
Yeah, Elf. Elf.
Thank you.
Yes, very good. At that, right before we were going to go in rehearsals, but right after our workshop, Jack Vertel, who runs Encores, had this idea. And he thought it could possibly make a wonderful musical. So he asked Casey Nicola, because Jack had just seen the workshop of Elf, and he asked if he thought that it might be a good fit for the four of us. And we immediately just kind of thought it was a great idea, and that's kind of how it all started. You want to take it from there, Bob?
I think you said everything.
Oh, thanks.
Jack came up with a brilliant sort of comic premise that dealt with a very important contemporary issue, but added a whole shell of comedy that kind of makes the whole political message more appetizing. So we were extremely excited about it. We just jumped right in and began working on a treatment right away.
What was the collaboration like with the three of you working together?
Awful.
Yeah.
No, it was really great because we'd worked together before and obviously worked with Casey, and I think we trust each other so much, and I've been on other projects where, you're somebody will say, I think you could do a better lyric, or I think that line could be better, and you sort of, might be a little defensiveness or you don't agree, but with this team, we all trust each other. So the minute anybody says that to me, I think in my head, instead of like, oh, they think this is bad, I think to myself, no, they believe I can do better. So it's been sort of a dream to work with this creative team.
Yeah. Now, for the cast, you are all working at the top of your game. Talk about the roles that you play.
I play Barry Glickman, who is a Broadway actor and semi-star, I think, who, I always think of him as being just like sort of a veteran. He always is working on Broadway and has had some success there. And really sweet, funny, big-hearted guy. Needy, and wildly attractive. Thank you.
I'm Angie Schwar, and I play Angie. We believe it's Angie Dickinson.
Yes, that is her name.
Usually it's just Angie on stage. And I play an old showgirl, old chorus girl with a heart of gold. An old jaded chorus girl with a heart of gold.
I'm Christopher Sieber. I play Trent Oliver, who is a former member of Actors Equity Association. He's very full of himself, and he is somewhat of someone that he just won't shut up. He went to Juilliard. He graduated Juilliard. He'll let you know he went to Juilliard at every chance he gets. But he also he went to England one time, and he liked the way they sounded. And so he has this weird affectation sometimes where he'll say words that just are a little bit more flowery than necessary. Very, very full of himself, but with a very big heart, and also really cute.
It's funny, we all said heart.
I love it. Yeah, totally. Well, that's the one thing, for those of you who haven't seen the show, and of course those of you who have, there is so much heart in this show. That's the biggest thing of everything that happens in The Prom. It all starts with that and ends there. When you were working on these characters, when you first got the script, was there another actor or actress going through your mind, like, I want to throw a bit of them into this?
Not really. Chris might be able to answer.
We had the great fortune of knowing these guys before and working with them, and they had Casey Nicola had come to us and said, "Hey, I've got something for you. We don't know what it is, but we wrote it with you in mind, and so so we sat around at his studio and read this script that really didn't have a name yet, and the characters weren't necessarily completely defined, but they were kind of big giant brushstrokes of people, but they knew us well enough so that we could connect with whatever they wrote for us, which is great." So yeah, my character is based on a lot of people, including myself, I think. And there were a couple moments when they would write something, and I go, "Hey." But there were also I also took some essences, because for me, acting is kind of taking the human zoo. Humans are weird things, and if you take little essences from little behaviors and everything, there are some actors that I did take some things from, and just some ideas, and they're still alive, so that's good. That's good. Yeah.
For you two, anybody?
Not really. Mostly, again, these guys were so generous in the way they wrote the show and trusted us just like they trust each other. We feel that way about each other as actors as well. Just to sort of throw things up and see what sticks, but with them, it's also with great craft and where mine would just be a dumb idea, they could make it into a line, or a song, and so it was mostly, just sort of grabbing things, so to speak, from myself and imagining oneself in the situation that the character is in. But it's very close to who I am.
I think the same for me. Do you remember the email we got early on that had our character's name and they said, "Think so and so and so"?
Oh,
Brooks.
yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah. Well, all I remember is that said, "Angie, think you." So I just would think me. But they definitely wrote a much smarter, more political version and more confident version of the real Angie. I will say that.
So for the creators, what was it like working with this group? I mean, creating these roles around them?
Well, they're the best comedians on Broadway. So we could not have a better group of people to write for. I think, speaking for myself, I come from a discipline of crafting material for actors. So there's no other way that I would want to work. But yeah, they're incredibly generous in the room. And Beth is not here today. Beth is also someone who you can give her anything. And if she's working too hard to make it work, you have to do a better job. Because she'll give everything to a role. She'll never say, "I wouldn't say this," or anything like that. And I think all of these guys are the same. They're very respectful and very committed. And we feel like equals. We're all working together.
Yeah, I just felt the whole experience. Everybody, like you said, everybody is an equal, and there's just I've never been in a room where there was more laughing during rehearsal. Like we just had so much fun putting it together, and if we had a problem, nobody panicked, nobody got angry. It was always, all right, let's see how we can figure this out, and it always ended up improving, and getting their input, and it's been a real treat and something that I've never really experienced before, just having such generous people to work with.
Chad, for you?
It's more the same. It's great to have this kind of a cast that's so talented but also so open. And I was telling these guys I was working on another show that shall not be named, but when the new pages would come out, the director would turn to me when they were being handed out to the actors, and he would go, "Run, because they're going to come at you, and why is this cut, and why isn't that, I want, and it was just, this is the exact opposite of that. It's, we'll try anything. And it's also been so great to go to them and go, "Why do you think this isn't working? What are you missing here? What do you need here?" And it's just, that's very, very rare, so it's been great.
It's just trust. There's so much trust amongst everybody on the team, on the creative side, and with the actors. It's really been incredibly special.
You are working with one of the most sought-after director choreographers with Casey Nicola. What makes him such a great director?
Well, I think my knee-jerk reaction to that would be basically what we've been talking about. He's a good papa. In a way, to the whole room, and he keeps the ball in the air, and he's not afraid of creativity. Some directors are, and and not even in a judgmental way. I just think that they get in a place of like, okay, let's bring it in, everybody. That sort of sense, a very teachery kind of thing. Casey is, for the most part, the opposite of that. When things need to come together, they need to come together, and we're all basically adults. But he, you know, he keeps the room at play at all times, and I know for all of us that is a necessity, and it's so appreciated. And he's just got a great sense of humor. He's a nice guy, and he knows what he's doing. He has a great eye, great taste.
I think my thing is that no one knows the mathematics of comedy better than Casey, right? Which is what you were saying, keeping the ball rolling.
Yeah, he was just a cheerleader, and I honestly do not know where he gets his energy, because he is so enthusiastic about the entire project, and this is very close to him too. The show means a lot to Casey. So, you know, he's worked for Disney, and he's, you know, big budget Book of Mormon, all that stuff. But this show is not necessarily a big Broadway splashy like Aladdin. You know, it's a smaller show. But to him, it meant the world. And there were times when, well, there's still times actually, Casey will be sitting watching the show and he gets so emotionally, just bursts into tears because he's so happy with it and so touched by it. Very emotional. But the cheerleading aspect of it and with the mathematical of comedy, we never ever questioned him ever. We just said, "Yep, absolutely, let's go. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens." That was the whole process, which was so great. What we were all talking about is that trust of things, and we would just try stuff, you know. And if it failed, yeah, so what? Moving on. We'll find it. We'll figure it out. But it was always fun. It was like what they were saying is the laughter. Beth put it really well. It was the easiest hard work we've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, what makes a good director is leadership. And you have to understand that in the Broadway community, with the long developmental timelines of each show, a director will be working on several different shows, you know, in a year. And some people, some directors you deal with kind of are like helicopter directors. They just kind of float in. And Casey is not like that. Casey manages to compartmentalize everything he's working on and is totally committed to the project. So there's nothing that appears on stage, in the design, in costumes or anything that he doesn't know about and hasn't pre-approved. Yeah. And that's super important. It's easy to get lost in the chaos of creating something, especially an original show, and you need that person who knows every detail all the time, and Casey is brilliant at that.
And he just has impeccable taste. I think he just really has amazing taste, and nobody knows how to build a musical number better than Casey Nicholaw. And sometimes, you know, we'll write a song, and then we kind of hand it off to him, and he's like, I know how I'm going to stage this, and it just elevates everything. It's really, really thrilling.
One other really crazy thing about Casey that I've seen happen a billion times is that talking about his eye, he will be like, oh, the third chorus girl on the left should be in blue. And we're like, what are you talking about? And then it's like, of course she should have been. Yeah. It's all these, I walked in one day and he's like, look at this orange. And I was like, what? I don't know, it's orange. Like, he's like, this is the wrong orange, right? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So he has that sort of really brilliant visual sense as well as all the other wonderful attributes.
Yeah. How long was the journey to Broadway with the Prom?
8 years. The idea came in 2010 and we opened in 2018. And it wasn't continuous. The first 4 years of development, you know, everybody had a lot of different things going on, but we always came back to it, and but the outline started quickly. That happened quite quickly. But then we had a full draft around 2013, 2014, and that's when everybody else came on board. And then we really started shaping it. But we'd always been writing it for these folks. Yeah. That's what was great.
We've always been involved.
They didn't know about
it. Beth, Brooks, Angie, and myself have always been with it. Yeah.
We keep
Before they
saying
knew
it was 6 years for us. Is that wrong?
6 or 7 years. Something like that.
You knew about it, but we didn't really do it until then.
So you were all from the very beginning. Yeah.
Yes.
With the cast.
Yeah. Yes.
How did your characters change, and who was the character who changed the most?
I think the character. I just had one drink. It's not that. I think the character that changed the most was probably Mrs. Green, who's the mother, the PTA head of the PTA in Edgewater, Indiana, played by Courtney Collins, brilliantly. Yeah. And I think part of the reason it changed so much is how brilliantly Courtney played it in Atlanta when we did it out of town. All the characters evolved, certainly. And mostly, again, because of the relationships we had set up with each other and the creative team. that it just sort of mushed together into what it is now. But that character, for me at least, I would say, is the one that changed the most. All of the people in Indiana, all those characters, that whole feel of it, I feel like changed the most for the better. It really became much more realistic as it went along. That would be my endless answer.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Hawkins as well, as being the representative of the reality of the town. Because coming out of Indiana, we realized that the way the show will work is if there's a sense that a musical is invading a real world. And so we kind of started to turn down the degree of absurdity and of musical theater-ness of the town of Indiana. In Indiana. In fact, when did we change the name? I guess we changed it before Atlanta, didn't we?
I believe so. I think so, yeah.
Anyway, it became a more believable name. And it used to be Heaven, Indiana. Right. So it used to be kind of a musical comedy town, populated in a sense by musical comedy characters. And then and we made a real effort to change that. And Michael Potts coming in and sort of embodying Hawkins really, I think, was the big change for me. He grounded the whole experience. He's such a fantastically good actor. You believe everything he says. He's a wonderful singer too, actually. So that's the character that I think evolved the most from my perspective. Definitely Mrs. Green, but Hawkins as well.
Well, I don't think we need to argue.
We believe you.
But weren't you connected to individual shows or something?
There was a time in the
yes.
opening.
Oh yeah, the original opening.
The
number,
original
yeah.
opening number we thought was brilliant.
It was. It was funny.
brilliant.
It was very funny.
Very
Basically,
funny.
our idea was to see the four of them, or actually not Angie yet, because you came in later, but Beth, Brooks, and Chris. We would see the end of the shows that they were in, and why they were so kind of miserable, and wanted to do something with their lives. And Brooks was Forrest Gump in Gump the Musical.
Thank you.
And Beth was Mama Fratelli in Goonies the Musical. And Chris, you were
I was a Long Day's Journey into Night.
The musical.
Sung in the style of Phantom of the Opera.
So, yes. So basically, we saw the last moments of each show,
Right.
and you would see their bow, and they would end in a confetti cannon for each of them. So we were like assaulting the audience in the opening
Right away.
number.
Right away.
And what we learned is, and then while they were bowing, they would basically be saying, "I hate my life, I need a drink," and it just kind of got them off on the wrong way. And
It was too much of a heavy note of parody right off the
yes,
top.
it was very kind of bitchy, and it was kind
Yeah.
of, it wasn't the right tone. So we did it for the very first lab, and then we realized, okay, we're not opening the show right. So that's when we kind of
And even though a lot
started
of
over.
people who work on Broadway are miserable alcoholics, we thought that that's possibly not the most sympathetic way to portray
you're
something.
starring in a show on Broadway. What are you miserable about?
I love that.
But all the buttons were funny because everyone went Gump. Everyone on yours was Goonies, and yours was
Journey.
Confetti cannons.
made me laugh.
It was fun.
hilarious.
It was fun.
It was funny.
It was wrong.
Funny and wrong.
A Life in the Theater by Brooks Ashmanskas.
Exactly. For Bobbin, you all have show-stopping numbers that are brilliant and clearly created for your characters. Would you talk about them? Brooks, talk about Barry going to prom.
Well, it's a gift of a song. Thank you, gentlemen. And the setup of it is that again, in the arc idea here that Bob is talking about, you meet Barry and he's a self-involved person. I think he is the one though that has this sort of underwriting, again, heart, but he really wants to do right. And sometimes it's for his own good or not. And so when they finally get to Indiana, he meets this young lesbian girl. He is immediately struck by her story and also can connect with it. Not just that they're both gay, but that he specifically was not allowed to go to his prom, and certainly in the way he would like to. And he had even had the tux ready and everything. It's very heartbreaking. And so when we get to the point in Act 2 when he gets to go, finally, spoiler alert, he, he's left alone in his hotel room and he's feeling very happy and nostalgic, and they, somehow in a very short song, really, Chad and Matt put together something that I think on the face of it you think it was just fun and crazy and he's jumping around, but within it it's so sad, that, and triumphant finally, that he's able to move on, I think, and learn from a child, as we all need to just be who you are, and he I think he really gets exactly what he wants by something as simple as being able to go to a dance. Yeah. And he gets them and they get him. And it's a lovely, but it's also wildly fun and crazy and energetic and exhausting.
Angie, for you,
Mine's
Zaz.
not exhausting at all. The first time I heard Zaz was Matt Sklar played it for me at his apartment, and I thought, who the hell do I think I am right now with this man and playing this song that he and Chad wrote. Then I got in a room with Casey. We did our little Fosse. I never worked with Fosse, but I have done Chicago, and so I showed him the little Fosse moves that I know. Then he showed me the Fosse moves he knows, and then he put it together into what is Zaz. And really, it's funny that you said being who you are. It's what I'm trying to teach Emma, is to find the inner confidence and Zaz, if you will, to sort of tell her story. And by the end of it, I do, just through Angie's crazy throwing her legs around and doing, but really it's a sweet song, and Caitlin follows what I do, and it's just, it's an honor to do it every night. Thanks, boys.
Yeah. And Chris, for you, Love Thy Neighbor.
Love Thy Neighbor is
Yeah.
quite possibly it's like the greatest gift ever. Thank you, guys. Trent is at a place where he has finally said, you know what, I'm going to go out and talk to the youth of the town and see if I can't just convince them that not everything is black and white in the Bible, and just because someone's gay and it says so in the Bible is apparently, but there are also other rules. That if you have a tattoo, you're going to hell, and we're gonna if you're lost your virginity before you're married, we're gonna stone your family and your friends as well. And it's done in like almost this you got trouble here in Indiana kind of way, and it's this gigantic revival number, and it keeps going higher and higher. And Matthew Sklar, one time, because we work out at the same place, he asked me in passing one day, so what's your good money note? What's your good money note? Never tell him. Never tell your friend composer, because they'll put it in a big Broadway show.
Over and
over again. But it's this fantastic number, and I convinced the town kids to be cool and like listen to each other. It's quite the revival number. It is humongous, and it's the craziest thing, because in this show, all four of us have an 11 o'clock number in Act 2, and one after another. Angie has hers, then Beth Level has this thing called The Ladies Improving, which was a song from her the show that made her a star, called Swallow the Moon. and it was called The Ladies Improving. It's a song that made her a star when she was younger. And so she sings this in Act 2, proving to Mr. Hawkins that she is still a good person, and then I have to follow Beth Level, which is always fun because the show stops cold, and then I have to go on and mope on and like, yeah, okay, well, I'll prove myself. And then Brooks has
I'm
his.
so happy I'm first.
Yeah, and then Brooks gets to come on and stop the show with his number as well. This never happens, by the way. There are no 4 11 o'clock numbers where it just showcases what we do best, and this doesn't happen. So this is the greatest thing ever. But originally the song was a lot longer. Love Thy Neighbor was a lot longer, and I think they cut a section out of it because number one, it was okay, we get it, and number two was I think Christopher's dying, and so they cut this great section. It was like this rap section. It was really great, but it was time to go. And when they cut it, Casey took me aside and he says, "Hey, we're gonna make a little cut in Love Thy Neighbor." And I was like, "Oh, thank God, thank God." He said, "You're not upset?" And I was like, "No, it's okay." Anyway, so that's my number.
It's nonstop, this show, for all of you. Dancing, acting, comedy, everything you do on that stage. What's your like pre-show ritual before you hit the stage?
Anyone else can take this question.
I feel like the whole day is always like getting yourself ready to do the show at night. For me specifically, I always have to do something physical. Because if you've seen the show, I do happen to wear a lace leotard. I shouldn't be doing that at my age, but I am. So there's always a physique or a dance class or something like that for me.
Yeah, I just get there early because I want to hang out with these crazy actors, and the entire company's really fantastic, and we really do genuinely like each other and love each other. And so I just get there early. We just kind of hang out. I'm very quiet, I suppose, and Brooks and I share a dressing room, so we kind of riff off each other for about an hour. And then we just go down and do our show. I just get into it. But yes, you really do have to take care of yourself. Every day it's all about getting there and just getting in the right spot. And when we were doing the show, I learned that if you just kind of think about it as not one big humongous thing, it's much easier to get through it. I mean, it is a lot, but if you just, okay, act one, it ends after this part, and okay, we got this, that's okay, that's all right. And then we have our 11 o'clock numbers in act two, and that's where I think most of our anxiety comes from, if there is anxiety, is because we're basically alone out there, and it's our number, and so that's where we're like, we all support each other. They're always like, how you doing? And we're like, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but we do it, yeah. And after our numbers are over, we're just like, oh, this is great.
Drinking,
smoking.
Never thinking of tomorrow. Look that up.
All right. For you, how?
What do I do?
Yes, what do you do?
I just, I mean, with Chris was saying it correctly. I like to get there somewhat early too, but I just to sort of soak in the energy of the thing. Also, with a piece this well written, you can just trust that it's going to push you along and support you. And I'm a firm believer in not warming up and letting it happen. That's very dangerous and frightening, but that's the way I do it. And I also don't want to know like how horrible my voice is feeling that day. I warm up, and if I ever do sort of like hum or something in the shower, I'm like, oh, geez, I'm never gonna make it. So I don't like to know. And Sandy, you like to feel the muscles pulling as you start at the beginning.
So your workout
Taste
is
the
show.
blood.
Yeah,
Taste the blood. Yeah.
The show is my warm up.
Yeah. No, but you're so limber. I mean, you dance over the beds. I mean, you do so much physical comedy in the show.
Nothing makes me happier than to watch Brooks Ashmanskas dance.
Oh.
It's so joyful. It's so wonderful, and it just comes from
He's
within.
like a Snoopy cartoon. He really is.
Thank you.
Who has the go-to dressing room?
Well, they're small
Yeah,
there because it's a
explain to-
playhouse.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Longacre is a smaller theater, Backstage especially.
We call it the submarine because
Yes.
there's nowhere to go.
And so it changes the go-to. Chris and I share one, and
Yeah.
right below us is Angie and Beth share one in the same. So it's back and forth a lot there.
Yeah.
But usually it's on stage or backstage or, during the scene.
It's interesting because Brooks and I have known each other for 26 years. We did our first Broadway show together that never made it to Broadway called Paper Moon.
Paper Mill.
Yeah, two people saw it. Yeah, but
I was one of those two.
Oh yeah,
people.
you saw it. Okay, so we met there. So we've been friends for 26 years, and we have everyone but the principals are 20 years old. And so I don't know, but Brooks and I kind of like, listen, that's happening. We're the kids. We call them the kids because we can. They come into our room and ask us advice. It's also, and one of them came up to us a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I have to ask you a question. Who's Joel Grey?" And we did not roll our eyes, and we did not go, oh. We was like, well, Brooks, Joel Grey is a Oscar, Grammy, Emmy, Tony Award winning actor.
Yeah.
And we explained who they were. But
Chris is better at it than
They also come. They also.
I
But
think
they also
I may
come to
have
us-
rolled my eyes.
But they also
I
come
think
to
I was
us
like, look it up!
with
you
like
idiot."
acting advice, comedy advice, their audition advice, and their agent advice. They come to us all the time, which is like really sweet, which is very, very sweet. And also we're like, oh my God, we are so old
Yeah,
now.
it makes me feel so young
Yeah, so young, so young.
and thin.
So Chris keeps the door open, you slam the door,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's the
We
relationship.
all keep our doors open, actually,
Yeah.
at the Longacre.
Always.
No, but it must be so great with the energy of all of you and all these young kids that are starting out in the business. And it must be great, like you said, they come to you for advice.
Yes, it's really a great group, and the young
Yeah.
people, you know, all that said, they're really so good, and they really try to not sit there on their phones all the time, and it's very impressive, and it gives me a little bit of hope, and I'm inspired by them. They're all so talented. The things that young people have to do now is much more than we had to do. We are very specialized.
just
I almost said
special.
special
We are
people,
special.
where they have to do everything all the time. It's crazy and reprehensible, you know. But it's inspiring, and it's lovely to have your door open and be backstage. I love backstage.
Yeah.
If the four of us are in one dressing room, it's quite something because it's very tight.
Yeah.
This final question is it's only one word. Your show sounds so much fun and so wonderful. If you could sum up your show in one word or an emotion, what would it be for each of you?
Joy.
He stole my word.
Joy.
Passion.
Heaven.
Honestly, I was going to say joy, so I'll have to say joyous because you
Perfect.
screwed with
Yep.
me.
Well, you're the writer.
I would say joy too, but also it's ultimately about love.
Yeah.
Zazz.
There you go.
Well, I want to thank you all from the bottom of
Thank
my
you.
heart. You changed the world through art, and that's something, you know, you go back, Bob, talking about that man up in Canada, that awful interview you had. Look what's happened to your career since then. Look what you've done. Like I said, you changed people's minds. You all changed people's minds and their feelings through art. For those of you who have not seen The Prom, go see The Prom at the Longacre Theatre. For those of you who've seen it, see it again.
Yeah.
The Company of the Prom.
Thank you. Thank you.